We're good, Steve.
Okay, so let us get it started and welcome everybody to this special board meeting being held Monday, April 20th. Let me say again that this board is being held under guidelines provided to all elected bodies by the state attorney general, that we are following the open meeting laws and public meeting laws as best we can under the current health orders as well. We are calling this meeting because we need to do business that responds to the very rapidly changing circumstances for schools throughout the state. To that in a moment, because this is a public meeting, I want to remind everybody that we can accept public comments through the YouTube comments function if you are watching at home. We will recognize and read those comments at that portion of the agenda, and then we'll move on to do the business that we're assembled here to do. So with that just out of the way, why don't we go ahead and call the roll, please?
Khan.
Here.
Mayor Hemick.
Here.
Ellison.
Present.
McQueen.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Okay, and thank you very much for that. We'll acknowledge persons' presence. I hope there are some folks out there watching as the schools continue to do our work. I don't know that we have administrative reports for this meeting.
Yes,
we do. Okay.
Then we have.
This is the superintendent's report, right?
Yes, but we have two reports. One from Donna First about food service, and one from Jack Haddard about graduation.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and ask for community comments now, and then we'll do those two administrative reports, then move to your report, Terry, and then to the items 4.1 through 4.5. So Stephanie, do we have any comments that you'd like to enter into this meeting?
Checking. Let me see.
Yep.
We're good, Steve.
Okay, so hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our administrative reports. Donna, why don't you start us off first, please?
Okay. I wasn't so much aware I was reporting on food service, but that is fine. We have our classified staff, those who are able to, who don't have restrictions because of health issues or a family member with a health issue, helping with the food delivery. So that involves our bus drivers actually riding, delivering the food on the buses. And that would be Tim Sandlin, Sherry Harding, and Heidi Rowe, and they have been wonderful. And they've given me great feedback on how to adjust routes and make things more efficient. And they've been very flexible, along with Sharon. And then we have nurses helping out to check folks in, check temperatures, to make sure that they have hand sanitizers and gloves and masks and those kinds of things. I know Tina's been working real hard with the community and with Melissa Helton to get us masks. They have made a lot of masks, so we appreciate that. Paul Comstock is also helping, as well as our Title I aides, Kelly Lewis and Nan Meegan. And then we have several of our aides, Jane Jaco, Kelly Oberg, Demetria Hode, Carla Horvath. We also have Lori Pollock, Lauren Sullivan, and then Jeff Irick is also helping out. He's driving the district van. So we have all of those people scheduled on Tuesdays and Fridays. They have been wonderful, delivering not only our food service, breakfast, lunch, free lunches, but different things that come from the food pantry. Once a week, they send out dinner packages, and then they've also had some donations from Bob Evans, had donations of masks that are going out tomorrow. So we've had a lot of different things, and everybody's been really flexible. I also should mention that Cresco Labs also sent a van and a driver. They usually have 2 people in their van, one to drive and one to help with deliveries. And they started coming last week, and they've been wonderful as well. So that's gone pretty smooth. And food service, our food service people, we have, of course, Michelle Martin, which you all met, but we also have, let's see, I have their names here. Josh Evans, who, if I would have known, I would have shared the picture of him. Maybe I'll do that in like the next board meeting, who they call Bear. He's working, Deborah Sturgeon and Toby Spriggs. All of them are in every day preparing food and packaging that up to be delivered. And they have been wonderful. So I just wanted you to know about all the hard work everyone's been doing. And as far
Thank
as
you for that,
numbers,
Donna.
yeah, I could give you totals, but they do change from time to time. I could say overall, we're probably delivering like about 198 from our food service to 198 actual meals, and about 100 food pantry meals. So we're definitely doing close, quite a few. So that's 189 twice a week, and then 100 dinners once a week.
That's remarkable. Let me also just send a thank you to all of the people you just listed who are making all of this possible under really difficult circumstances.
Do we need to do something with the beepy beepy noise? Or is it just me hearing it?
No, I'm hearing it as well.
I'm sorry, that was some of our Yellow Springs staff. I didn't, my phone went off right as
Okay, no, never mind. As long as I'm not messing up the system, I'm going away.
any questions?
Matt Housh is going to be laughing and saying, see, I told you to turn your phone off. So sorry about that.
Are there any other questions or comments for Donna? I don't see any hands up. I'm doing the best I can here, but thank you again, Donna, for that report, and thank you again to all the people who are working to make this happen. If we total it all up by the end of all of this, it's going to be a remarkably large number of meals that we have provided for people to make sure that they get them, and that's terrific. So I'll turn this over now to you, Jack, for your report. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I talk about the seniors, I just want to let you know that the Ohio High School Athletic Association this afternoon officially canceled all their spring sports. So they did, I mean, as we would all imagine, they sent an email out this afternoon canceling those. As far as our seniors, we are looking at a lot of different things to support our seniors. So we realize how much they've given up, and there are a lot of efforts going into trying to celebrate them every way we can. So actually the first one is tonight. So at 8:20, it will be 2020 military time on the 20th. We're going to turn on our stadium lights for 20 minutes, and people can drive by and honk. And it's just a kind of a ceremonial thing to recognize the seniors. The stadium is not open, so we're not inviting people to get out of their cars and come in and partake in any kind of celebration as far as that goes. It's more symbolic. And it looks like most of the schools in the county are doing that tonight. And then the next thing that we're working on is we're getting signs printed for all of the seniors. So we are working with the staff now to figure out what that looks like, but we want to do some kind of fun delivery where our teachers are going out and doing some home visits to the seniors and putting them in their yards. And it's the school logo, and it says class of 2020, honk for your seniors. Just something, again, to celebrate them and recognize them. And then the village is working on a banner project. So each senior will have a banner hanging downtown with their pictures on. So that just started this afternoon. We started really working on that. So we're trying to get those printed and up as soon as possible. And then the last thing is just reporting on graduation. We are now looking at dates in July. So we're looking at mid to late July for a graduation ceremony. We're trying to imagine still what that can look like. And we know that there's still uncertainty as to if we'll even be able to hold it in July. But we're looking at like Central State, seeing if we can use their football stadium because it's large, it's local, but there would be enough seating and parking that people could practice social distancing. We're looking at potentially even like Wright State or Cedarville University to see if they have any indoor facilities. We've even discussed doing it at a drive-in theater where people can remain in their cars and we can do it and they can listen to the speeches and everything through their car radios. So kind of everything's still on the table as far as what our plan is. But we do absolutely still plan to have a graduation ceremony, and we're looking at dates in mid to late July. And that is it.
That's terrific, Jack. Thank you very much. I also had a little brief email exchange with Terry about some thoughts about what to do for seniors. So I'm really glad that you're on top of this because I think that's going to be real important for this class that kind of got the rug pulled out from underneath them. Are there any other questions? Sylvia, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. So Jack, how does that work tonight in terms of being able to be over there honking or whatever?
I think it's my understanding that the lights are just going to be on and people can just drive through the parking lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions for Jack about his update about seniors?
I think that's
Okay.
really so nice about the banners too. That's really, really nice.
Yeah. That is terrific.
And they'll be able to keep them. So it'll be nice that when this is all done, they'll have a yard sign that they can hold on to, or they'll have a banner with their picture printed on. So we'll have some nice takeaways to remember this.
Excellent. Okay, seeing no other, Sylvia, you're applauding. Excellent. Okay. Seeing no other hands up. Terry, do you have anything that you wanted to talk to us about?
Yes, a little bit. So first of all, thank you, Jack and Donna, for giving those reports, because those are two key pieces of what we have now. And thank you, board, for giving up some time, as we just had a board meeting not 2 weeks ago. But this landscape is changing so quickly, I can hardly keep up. So today, I don't know if you were watching, Governor DeWine closed schools for the remainder of the year. So we are to continue with distance learning. And he said, I knew he was on a call over the weekend with some superintendents around the state. So I had some insight into what was going to happen. But he said he made his decision because of continuity for students, and then, the health concern. Students can carry the virus. They can be asymptomatic or symptomatic. And then, we have teachers and families, and so there's no real way to contain that. He also said some things that I've heard prior to today about maybe a kind of gentle roll into next school year. And so by that, I mean, maybe we are not coming back in the way that we traditionally think school will be starting. So whether that's a blended approach, meaning both online and physical in some combination, or all online, remote, until we can do it physically, I don't know. But he said, and you would know if you listen today, that he is, they cannot make a decision about that yet. And then he mentioned being concerned about groups that we have been concerned about, and that we've tried to kind of really think about how we're going to serve these groups. And that would be our students with disabilities, our medically fragile students, students who may not have access at home, we can take care of the device piece, and we've tried to take care of the access piece. But sometimes you just don't know, and you don't want to widen that gap unknowingly. And then students for whom home life is not necessarily the most stable or supportive environment. So we have to think about now, how do we finish out this school year? So I'm really asking for the board's thoughts about this. Our end of year, based upon our regular calendar, is May 29, and the last day for teachers is June 1st. So we meet our minimum hours roughly by May 14th. So what minimum hours are is the state says at minimum, elementary schools must be in attendance for 910 hours, secondary schools 1,001, and there are some exceptions to that for PD, et cetera. But if you just use those numbers, when you meet those hours, you can call it a year. Most districts adopt their regular calendars by having more than that, so that we can account for any calamity days, which would be, in most cases, snow days, not global pandemic days. So our minimum hours, we would meet, let's say May 14th. So we have to make some decisions. Do we keep going until the bitter end, until May 29th? Or do we say, we need to stop when we can, do all of these tasks that have to be done? And so when I talk about tasks, I'm talking about technology collection, even if we have to redistribute in the fall, because we have to service these machines and make sure they are running. As Jack mentioned, locker clean out. Students need to get things that they have left at school. We need to debrief about, okay, in these past 6 weeks, feels like 6 years, in these past 6 weeks, what have we learned? What was successful? What was not successful? If we have to plan for next year, how do we take this knowledge and make better plans? How do we even craft the time to plan for next year? Because I'll remind you that teachers contractually come back 3 days before the start of the year. So that 3 days is not really enough time to think about how are we going to do this, particularly if we have to do what I'm going to call a split session, where we might say certain grades go on Tuesdays and Thursdays, other grades go on Monday and Wednesday, and everybody does something online on Friday, or maybe it's morning and afternoon. I mean, these are all of the things that we have to think about. So should we end a little early, that would allow us time. It would allow us time to get additional professional development in all of these tools that allow us to do remote learning and remote instruction. But we also have to think about, okay, let's say we're going to go back and it's going to be even in some blended capacity. How do we possibly get any safety equipment and supplies that we need? So we actually gave all of our gloves to EMA because they requested them. So we don't really have masks. We don't have gloves. Hand sanitizers, like, having a gold bar if you have hand sanitizer. So how would we plan for all of this stuff? And I say this only to say that it's my sense, and it's just a sense, and we know how useful that is. It's been my sense that parents have been very supportive, but at the same time, folks are nearing capacity. So I really want to hear your input. We certainly could send out a survey, and it's that balance. It's our responsibility to educate students, but it's also that balance for parents who are dealing with lots of things. Yeah, I might have to be here with my kids at home, but if I don't have to be over them about this academic piece, it might make my life easier. I will say that in my mind, in my mind and the mind of some of my colleagues, ODE and the governor are saying two different things a bit. So ODE continues to send out guidance saying, nope, everybody should not consider changing their calendar. The governor today said schools have great flexibility to make decisions at the local level of what's best for them. I do know that other Greene County districts are crafting language to end at their minimum hours. So really, I need to hear your input for guidance. So yeah,
Terry?
yeah.
That was an admirably efficient summary of all of this as it has changed even since our last board meeting. Let me just ask two informational questions first before we throw it open to the table. In terms of that, you just said we have great latitude in determining when we end our school year. I want to ask the same question about educational curricular choices, because as you laid out, there are a variety of possibilities out there to plan for. How much freedom do we have to choose what we want to do? That's question number one. Question number two is you hustled us again with remarkable efficiency to approve 2 years worth of school calendars. I'm wondering if we have the latitude to think about changing that. What if we, thought about a start date that was more like, the Tuesday after Labor Day, which would in a sense give us almost an extra 2 or 2.5 weeks of a cushion to get this started over the summer. And then, before that, as I said, just sort of point of information.
I think that's an excellent point. We can change the calendar. We can go back and resubmit and reapprove. I mean, that's absolutely up to us, and that certainly would help for the planning for that. So that would be one way to attack it. Sylvia, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I need to duck out for a minute because of some stuff that's going on here. But you wanted our input. I mean, my gut feeling would be end at minimum hours. But what I was more interested in, and then you covered it, is what are your fellow superintendents saying? And it sounds like that's what they're saying. But I need to go for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
The Greene County colleagues, as I said, most are going to attempt to end at minimum hours. I do know Oakwood, they are going till their regular calendar end, but after May 15th, they're not having any new instructions so people can turn things in, etc. For us, because we've taken what I feel is the best approach for our kids and are doing this Inquire Ed Together When Apart curriculum, we've not tried to replicate a traditional day online. And so that's good. So we don't have the type of cycle down things I think that other districts have. However, for next year, we would have to try to figure out how do we do kind of schooling just in a way that looks different. So Steve,
did you have your hand up?
Yeah. So I guess my real question was, what are the advantages of keeping to our schedule to the 29th? Is there even a reason to do that? Like, is there some sort of benefit that we in the district would get out of that? Because it seems like a very easy answer as to should we cut that short in order to prep for what we may be facing in the fall. To me, that seems like a very easy compromise there. So if there is a reason to maintain, I'd like to know, or if there is a good one.
No, the only reason would be ODE says schools should not consider changing their calendar. Honestly, what do we gain? I mean, certainly we could say, yes, we're keeping students engaged in something. And I think that there's a value in that. And I've heard from just a handful of parents who last week seemed to have been, actually the week before last seemed to have been the I'm going over the cliff week, right? So I had parents say, it's too much, we can't take it. I had one parent, God love them, said, look, you come over here and we'll go upstairs and you can sit here and do the work. And I get it. So I talked to staff and said, look, if you sense your parents are struggling, just let it go, say step back, it's okay. So again, that was just a very small sample. So there are a lot of folks out there that I don't know. I'm going to make the assumption that they were all feeling somehow somewhere in that same vein. So I don't know that there's any, to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure that there's any like hardcore scientific academic benefit. There certainly is benefit in keeping kids engaged, but I will also say I know that some of our parents have done that and do that as a matter of course anyway. Mm-hmm. I think the big thing for us that we could either accomplish now at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year or some combination is to figure out how do we do kind of real schooling in a way that we have never done, which is even different from what we've done the past few weeks. How do we do that, and how do we do that effectively, which takes some planning.
I'll just also add that this is already the most difficult part. Even teachers have difficulty keeping students' attention around this time. So it already seems like maybe the build up to a new school year, even in their case, they might be basically craving some academics by September or August of next year. So it's just something to think about, but it's already difficult now. I can only imagine at home.
TJ?
Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents in as well. It seems to me that I would much rather be prepared and hit the ground running on the next school year and have a really good school year than to be underprepared and struggling to stay above water come September or August, right? So I'm completely on board with ending at our minimum hours and then giving teachers and staff the time to prepare and to really, have something good going forward next year. That's not good now, but I think it would be even better with time to plan. And it's what you're highlighting in terms of the time we have to prep for next year. I think that I would be seriously concerned about sticking to our same schedule right now.
Aida?
Yeah, I like kind of what you've suggested, Steve Kahn, in terms of offering a little bit more time next year for planning too. I think it's going to be really important that teachers have this year, however many days, to process how this has been and what they hear from families and bring that all together so that planning can happen for the next school year. I don't know how that can be divided, but it seems to me that, decompressing, processing is going to be really, really helpful because I think everybody has been struggling in all kinds of ways. Teachers, parents, families, students, everybody. So I would be curious to know about, what the teachers do think about this and where they feel like they want their energy. What would feel more useful is, planning at the end of this school year and then having the summer off, or having that happen next year where everybody feels a little bit more energized and it maybe has had some time to think about it. I do know that the contact that I've had, and it hasn't been a lot, but parents have been waiting to hear. I mean, I'm not sure everybody's happy that schools are closed until the end of the school year, but I think there's a great amount of relief too that people aren't questioning that anymore. So I think just not knowing has been stressful. So whatever we can do to help alleviate that, I feel like is going to be important too. And I guess I just want to also extend my appreciation to, all of you in the trenches doing this on a day-to-day basis. I really feel the tension and the stress of all of this, but I'm not doing it. And so thank you. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, here. And let me just for my own 2 bits reiterate, I think what my colleagues have all said. I think certainty is good, and the sooner we can give it to parents, the better. I am worried about the strain that parents are feeling, having been tossed into this like the rest of us and told, oh, by the way, tomorrow you're going to have to supervise your children's education on top of figuring out how to do your own job from home. And, I worry as well that parents, at least of smaller kids, are wondering what happens in the summertime, because I suspect a number of summertime activities are going to wind up canceled, rec leagues and camps and all that other stuff. And so they're looking at, a time horizon here that doesn't quite end in terms of this for them. So what we can do to mitigate their anxieties, I think, is good. I think Aida's point is also well taken. I would really like to have a sense of, well, I'd like to have a consensus among the faculty about what they think is the smartest, best way to do this. TJ, go ahead.
I guess my question is this: is it an either-or proposition that we've got the 2 weeks possibly in May if we end early, and then we wouldn't have those 2 weeks in September? Or is there a possibility that you could do both if needed? Because, I would look at a month and go, even that's not a very large amount of time to have the teachers do what we're asking them to do, right? They've got a heavy lift ahead of them, and even a month is probably not enough time to prep. So in some ways, I wouldn't mind them getting ahead of it now and then having the option for an extra 2 weeks if that's a possibility, I guess.
I think that's a great question. Hang on just a second, Sylvia. And let me just clarify that my suggestion about moving the start date up really responded to the fact that the longer we wait to start schools, the likelier it is that we can get back to some sense of normal. I think Kettering schools have traditionally started on like August 10th. Right. And I just can't imagine that anybody's going to be ready to walk into a building on August 10th. But if we're starting, let's say very early in September, that gives us a little extra time to hope that we can be back to normal. How that dovetails with teacher prep, I hadn't really thought about. Sylvia, sorry.
No, and I apologize for stepping away. And there is no more normal. Just please be sure of that. I guess I was thinking if the minimum hours ended up being the decision, and there were to be some time in May for teacher planning. Knowing a lot of our teachers, they won't let it sit over the summer anyway, because see how they've scrambled so much extra already because of how much, it's important to them. Also, the extra whatever amount of time in what we call the fall, it's really fake fall because we start in the summer. It wouldn't be like way into September. It would be like later August time, I think, right? And then my only other thought was I like all those ideas for the processing and planning for the teaching and staff and administration who have to deal with and implement a whole bunch of continuing to be new stuff with the students. And then just keeping in mind that on the end of the 2021 school year, we need to be careful about bumping up against minimum hours and an end date that you have to keep in mind if we started late because we had a good reason to start late, but it all carries forward. And I know Terry's thinking about all this, and I know all the administrators and teachers are thinking about all this, but that's just, you asked for our thoughts, and that's kind of where some of the thinking took me.
I appreciate that. And you're exactly right. and I've said in previous conversations, I think particularly at the secondary level, our day is too short, which causes us all kinds of other problems, which dovetails into the start. Something else around ending, when you change your calendar, you're supposed to provide 30 days for the public to comment. Now, no district, certainly all of our colleagues in Greene County, we discussed this and they're like, look, we're just going to put it out there and we'll take folks' comments. So I guess if it's, I think what I would like to do is survey parents, a very brief survey, just so that folks would know and this would not be a surprise. Because when I say ending on May 15th, I picked May 15th because it's May 14th is when we meet our minimum hours. May 15th is a Friday. I mean, there's no magic in that. It could be that Monday. It could be anything else after that. But I say that knowing that we still have 3 weeks left at least, if my calendar is right, until we even get there, which seems like a long time. So we've got this week, we've got next week. So it's this full week, the rest of this week, and then 3 additional weeks. So we've got almost 20 more days, which, again, as I said before, I feel like we've been doing this for 6 years. I'm not sure what 20 more days is going to feel like. But I will send a survey out to both, actually I'll do it for parents and teachers. And so maybe we can get some understanding about that, if that's acceptable to the board, and then that will help us make a more informed decision. But I would say if you ask me now, we definitely need to shut it down before the end, before our regularly scheduled end date. And one other thing I don't want to lose sight of before we go on is that we may certainly need to provide additional services for our students with disabilities in the summer. And simply because of this is a good time to think about, what do we give parents to help their children just continue some education over the summer? So these are things that we need to think about as well.
Do we need to think about meal delivery and if we end on the 15th, we would still be thinking about meals through the 29th. Is that correct?
Right. And quite honestly, there's been larger talk about what do we do in the summer, because I think the way that the federal government has relaxed regulations, we can provide it in the summer. So Donna and I have talked a little bit about that. But we would certainly provide it. I think through the end of May is an easy decision. Then it becomes, how do we kind of work collaboratively with other organizations in the district that in the past have provided food for, students in the summer.
Terry, I'm looking around virtually at my board colleagues here. I think the sense of the board is, yes, we'd be happy with a decision where we end at our minimum hours, or at the end of that particular week, 14, 15, whatever it happens to be, allowing some time for technology pickup, locker clean out, all of those things that have to be attended to, and then giving the teachers quite a bit of time, at least to start thinking about what comes next. Mm-hmm. I think what else you working was, I think we always like to have a sense of kind of larger community and parent and faculty feeling about all of this. So I don't want a survey to slow up this decision, but I think we feel like it would be good to just have that information. Okay. I think as well, clarity for parents sooner rather than later, clarity for teachers sooner rather than later is a good thing. If I have misspoken on behalf of the board, please jump in now, but that's my sense of what the room was saying. Okay.
All right.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we? Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Okay. So now we'll go to, I guess that officially finishes up 3.1. So now we'll have more things to say about the consent administrative portion of the consent calendar here. This is items 4.1 through, let me double check, 4.5. Yes, 4.5. Do I have a motion for these, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, Terry, walk us through these.
Okay. So let me see the order they're in. So 4.1, House Bill 197 has allowed for some provisions from a change in how we normally practice because of this school closure due to COVID-19. So the resolution approving superintendent and treasurer authority would give us really during this time broader authority to make decisions related to how the things necessary to get the job done during this period. So technology purchases, let's say, the hotspot purchases, there are some spending limits, decisions around food service. And so it is on advice of legal counsel that we just have this resolution passed as we kind of continue through this period. The next, 4.2, is evaluation. So I've been working with the association, the YSEA, about evaluations because it gets very complex, and I'm just going to give you the summary. Because we could not finish the year and there is no testing, part of teachers' evaluations depended upon that. And so now there's an absence of data. That's piece one. Piece two is that administrators were unable, in some cases, to finish the observations. So House Bill 197 gave us some leeway with how to do that. And so the teachers in the district who've been working very, very hard, they were pretty much to a teacher, hey, we want to finish this. So we've arranged for a way to do that virtually. That does not penalize teachers and really is generous and supportive and recognizes that the work that they've done. So the YSEA has been very collaborative in this endeavor. And so we were able to get this done. And so this is an MOU that says, here's how we're going to finish evaluations. Here's the growth measure that we're going to use so that teachers are not penalized, and if we didn't finish evaluations for teachers, they'd have to start over next year. So we just didn't want to do that. So that's what that MOU is. Distance learning, 4.3 resolution regarding grading and graduation policy amendments. So you have the resolution and then you have an appendix. And basically the appendix has two parts. One is about how we're grading, and you've heard this before. Fourth quarter is pass, fail, unless you're in a CCP course, which, colleges dictate how those go. And then at the secondary level, we've attached a numeric value for the P and the F because we have to do so that it translates into GPA and grade cards. And we had a lot of discussion and teacher input, and so we landed on a 100 and a 59, which is very generous and I think takes into account the just not normal time in which we're currently living. So the first part explains grading. The second part is, again, House Bill 197 gives us this allowance. We require 21 credits for graduation and community service and a senior project. House Bill 197 allows us to fall down to the state minimum at 20. It is on this. I do not believe we have any seniors there, but just in case, we do have the ability to drop down to that. We've waived the community service and senior project for students who have not yet completed it, simply because we were not sure how they were going to be able to go out and do that. So that's what that resolution is. Distance learning resolution. This is the companion piece. We've changed our crisis plan to reflect this, and now this is the actual resolution about we are doing distance learning. as our method of instruction. Consider this, we've already dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Consider this putting a period at the end of the sentence. So we're good here. And finally, 4.5 is, I've talked about the need for a literacy curriculum. The teachers absolutely wanted it. So in the winter, in December, we got into the district print resources from 2 different literacy programs. The teachers, I believe in January, had in-service on the first program. They were not fans. The second program, we did a webinar on March 6th. And so they've had these resources to examine the whole time. We did a webinar. They seemed to like that. There was a third curriculum series that is an open source series that's basically online. There was a lot of reluctance about that because it's a lot of work, and that's kind of the problem we're in now. We don't have a literacy curriculum, so it's a lot of work on teachers, and they've been just amazing in this. All of my request was that all of the series we reviewed met EdReport's guidelines for usability, the content, the knowledge base. In alignment to standards. And so the ones that we reviewed did, and we finally landed on ReadyGen, which is a K-6 blended program. So everything that we get in print, and we will get print resources, is also available online for students. So there's the what you would call the traditional text, plus all of the supplemental materials that come with this. So for example, just for the classroom library sets that every teacher gets, there's 6 titles, and there's a copy for each student. So we'll be getting in just that portion of it, about 3,000 texts. So it's a big purchase. So I've given you all the detail. It's a big purchase and a big number, but we have not had this in, I think one teacher said, I can't remember for 20 years that we've had this. So I ask that you approve that textbook adoption. Once we have board approval, we can go ahead and start the paperwork, because when the materials come in, it's just going to take a long time for us to inventory them and then get them in the hands of teachers so that we can do the requisite training for the program.
Yowza, thank you for that, Terry. Can I start by asking about that last item? I almost hesitate to ask, adopting this curriculum, how much is it contingent on being in a face-to-face classroom? How much of it can be adaptable to a not in a face-to-face classroom, et cetera?
So first of all, I forgot to mention it's a 6-year adoption, which is what they tend to be. So everything so like I said, we'll get just for the classroom libraries, these trade books, those are all online.
Okay.
So students can access them online. There's a Reader's Writer's Journal. It's available online. There's a skills workbook. It's available online.
Okay.
Which I'm thinking probably would have been helpful right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sylvia?
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, a couple of topics back in that whole group of things. Thanks for explaining everything. I appreciate the credit recovery language in the part about graduation and the longer date line for that. I know that's more work for, the people at school who do that work with the students, but I appreciate that. And I always appreciate the work that is done every year at the high school regarding credit recovery.
Yep, good point. Other questions about this slate of Aida?
Yeah, no particular question. I just want to give kudos to you, Terry, and to the Teaching Association for working out all those issues around evaluation and stuff. Just reading that, it just seemed like there was so much time and energy that got put into that. And I'm glad that you figured out a way that it could work for everybody, as though you needed more to do. So anyway, just again, acknowledging that effort and hard work.
Thank you. And I do want to say Matt and Jack were also on board in terms of, our approach was how do we finish these and not penalize teachers? So.
Yep. That's great. That's really good. Other comments or questions about any of this? I guess I just want to stress what you said, Terry, what I said at the outset. We're doing this because the ground shifts underneath us almost daily, and we will have to just try to keep plowing ahead as best we can under these circumstances. And, I think people have really stepped up, teachers, administrators, staff, bus drivers, to make all of these moving parts continue to move. So it's been a remarkable thing to watch.
Thank you. You said something. I've been doing a lot of reading about World War II and Churchill, and so I'm going to say, we're KPOing. Keep plodding on, because we can
plodding along.
Right.
Exactly. If I see no further hands up, why don't we go ahead and call the roll on this vote, please?
Khan,
Yes.
Merhemic,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for that. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, Terry and Tammy, I want to just make sure that there isn't anything else you need from us as a board right now. Are there other thoughts, other opinions, issues that you want to run past us since you have us all together right now?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
No, I can't either, and I just want to thank you for being supportive. I promise we won't meet again until regularly scheduled.
No, don't make any
well.
promises. Don't make
Yeah.
any promises.
Oh, it's totally fine. This is crazy times.
Big things are out of the
Yeah.
way, but no, thank you so much.
Okay. Well, then I will call for a motion to adjourn us.
So moved.
I'll move. I'll second. I'll third.
Okay, very good. Call it, please.
Merhemic,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Khan.
Yes. And thank you all very much for this very short notice, and stay safe. We'll be in touch. I recommend the virtual happy hour with all your friends and loved ones. Someday soon. All right. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.